Good morning YouTube and welcome back to the channel and another episode on Project E92 M3 on the driveway. For those watching the channel, you're probably thinking I spend more time working on this car than driving it, but this is an issue that I've had for a while. So essentially last year I had an issue with the brake pump sensor under the scuttle vacuum sensor, which unfortunately caused the car to keep cutting out. I believe it to have overworked the vacuum pump, which is under the wing here. So today's video we're going to show you how to replace it. I've bought a used one because I'm not 100% sold it's the pump, but obviously for the sake of £50 for a used one versus £300 to £400 for a brand new one, I thought we'll give it a whirl. If it fixes it, we know that's the issue. If it isn't, there's an issue with the vacuum line somewhere in the car. So the symptoms I'm getting now at the moment, unfortunately, are really loud buzzing noise coming from the passenger side when you start the car up. Normally for the first 2 minutes, which I'll include a clip of now. So like I say, we're going to jack the car up, get the pump out and see if this is the faulty issue, just trying another one to check. With the wheel removed, you can see I've left the car resting on the trolley jack, but I've also just rested under there an axle stand, and the reason for that is I have seen trolley jacks fail. So the last thing you want is your legs or your arms under there, jack gives out, and then unfortunately there's nothing there to save you other than the weight of the car. So the axle stand, there's no weight on it, it's just there to make sure that if the jack does fail, it will catch the car. Now with it off, wheel off even, you can now see all the points that we've got to undo for the rear wheel arch trim. So once we've undone that, that'll all come out and the pump basically just sits behind here. So we'll get on with that now. And like I said, the car's a bit grubby because we're coming into the winter now here in the UK, but you can still see the wonderful KW Has kit sat there. So with all the screws removed, you've got a mixture of 8mm and 10mm nuts and bolts in there. You'll see them as you work round, and now it's just a case of once that plug underneath is done, sort of pulling it all out, which I'll put in the camera now, and you'll be ready to see the pump. So with the arch liner rested out of the way, you can now see the brake vacuum pump in there. You've got a power connector and a 10mm nut, and then once you undo that nut, there are 2 prongs on the other side, but you just need to undo that and it will just lift up and off, which I'll show you now. I don't think the GoPro picked it up very well, but there you can see the cavity. So you've got the 2 sort of dowels that it rides on, and then that 110mm at the front. So once you've undone that, disconnect the power connector, the pump should just lift out. Now as you can see, we're now held on with the hose, which is just a press release under there, which I can't do one-handed. You press that in and then you should be able to just pull it off and the pump will be removed. So with the pumps side by side, you can see I've removed the cradles, and the reason for that is the one I bought from the breakers has got a bent arm on it, whereas my one was straight. So I dare I say it, my pump looks newer, but obviously it was just potentially overworked. So what we'll do is going to swap this out now, put this bracket onto the replacement pump, and then fingers crossed I've got no more whistling hoover noise on startup. Well, that was a bit of a fail, eh? As you probably heard, it still makes the same noise. So what has happened? Well, it's definitely not the brake vacuum fault. I'm going to put a quick clip in now because I took it into the garage, put a 12-volt plug on it, tested the pump with it obviously open, and then I put my finger over the vacuum line to simulate what it'd be like with a closed vacuum on there, and the pump is dead silent. So on the bench we have my old GSXR 12-volt bike battery, which unfortunately is barely holding charge, so it's not going to give it a full obviously run up that you'd expect to hear, but it should be clear. Obviously the noise that I've got on startup is definitely not this pump. So the first test we're going to run is 12 volt straight to it with it open, and then I'm just going to put my thumb over the vacuum feed line, and the reason for that is that will simulate it being in a closed vacuum circuit on the car, and you'll hear hopefully that it makes barely any noise at all. Bit of ghetto wiring. So as you can hear me talking with that vacuum line all covered up like it'd be in the car. Definitely not the same noise. So if you are obviously getting fault codes, which I haven't been for the vacuum pump on the brake sensor, this guide will show you how to change it, but in my situation, not the cause. So what's happened? Well, I guess like all things, for those that have watched the channel and the guides I've done, I'm not a BMW technician. You go by the forums, watching other videos and seeing noises, and it's definitely not the brake vacuum pump. Now, I'm sure there's many of you in the comments going, it is the secondary air pump, and it's got to be that because it's the only other electrical vacuum pump or electric pump in the E92 engine bay. So the reason I didn't go with that is that noise only started when I had the problem with the brake sensor fault. And to my knowledge, and I could be wrong here, but when it went to Aaron Reeve to have all the mapping work done and the cold start deleted, I thought all that was switched off. So I was like, it can't be that. But obviously, listening to it, either the pump is faulty or I've got some sort of leak in the secondary air pump that's making that whooshing, whistling sound. And it's like I said, it doesn't sound as bad in the videos, but in person, especially in the morning, it's like, but it doesn't seem to do it if you leave the car for 8-10 hours and go out again. It's only first thing in the morning that it makes that noise. So yeah, who knows? So I'm going to have to take the plenum back off again, obviously have a look in there, see if there's something with that vacuum pump or secondary air pump either under the carbon intake plenum, so that's all got to come back off to access it, whether I've dislodged something when I was doing something with the brake vacuum and the idle control valve, who knows. But I've got no fault lights, no running issues, it's literally just that noise on startup. So yeah, back to the drawing board with that one. But hopefully if any of you are changing the brake vacuum pump, this guide will give you the full instruction on how to do it. So yeah, I'm sure you'll join me on a later video trying to work out what that noise is, because I do want to resolve it, but because it's not causing any running issues, it's like, but let me know in the comments if you had a similar thing. Have you managed to resolve it? Was it the secondary air pump making that noise? I mean, it's the only other pump in the engine bay, so it's got to be. But moving forward, we've got some exciting stuff with the E46 M3. The car bonus intake should be arriving in the next couple of days, so there'll be a video on that. And we do need to go and do another automotive CAF of the UK. But the weather, as you can probably see, I had a nice sunny day changing the vacuum pump, and it has just been wet, wet, wet in the UK. But until next time, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.